Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Rewilded Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Lydia Joy. How is everyone doing? We are well into the dark days now, y'all. We're just still in that descent. This morning, I watched a coven of crows chasing a hawk outside my window. Most of the trees have dropped their leaves here where I live on the East Coast. We still have some rusty browns and burnt oranges and mustard yellows hanging on. And of course, the maple trees are still beautiful in their colored leaves. And I decided to let a bouquet of flowers that I um, got at my CSA, U pick, these beautiful cosmos, and I just let them dry in a vase on my desk. They're just dead, but they're gorgeous. Even in their dried state, they just look so beautiful. And it just feels very apropos for the season that we are in. And I have to say, this has probably been the most profound Scorpio season of my life. The other day, I shared a little reflection on Instagram about why. And it feels like some of the oldest patterns in my life have just surrendered. They've put themselves out of a job, and they're now being composted to become new life. It's kind of like the largest fallen oak in the forest. Even it can be broken down, decomposed, and returned to the soil to fuel growth. For me, that's what it feels like right now. My oldest running pattern is dissolving, and that old energy is literally becoming soil for what's next. And so I want to share what I wrote in that Instagram post the other day with you now. You don't release old patterns, you compost them. Old emotional patterns become soil for new life. There are seasons in the body just like in the land. Right now, I'm in a phase I can only describe as composting. Not releasing, not purging, not letting go, but breaking down what once kept me alive and allowing it to become soil for what comes next. In the past, I watched this process in nature, in the falling leaves, the softening ground, the dark, rich earth forming under last year's growth. But this time, I'm watching it inside myself. A survival pattern that shaped my entire life finally lost its job. And without it, I feel spacious, tender, awake, and not bracing anymore. Composting isn't dramatic. It's quiet, slow, cellular. It's the moment when old identity becomes material, when grief becomes depth, when past versions of ourselves dissolve, not as loss, but as nourishment. No wasted years, no wrong turns. Everything is now returning to source. My body knows how to do this. Yours does too. This is the rewilding of the inner ecosystem. Old matter, softened, metabolized, turned into fuel for new life. I don't have clarity yet about what the new will be. I don't need to know. The soil comes first. For now, I'm resting on the ground, letting my body lead, trusting the cycle. This is the rewilding of the inner ecosystem. I'm learning to trust the body's seasons. I don't have to rush toward the bloom. The soil is the beginning. And that's exactly what this episode is about. The internal alchemy of Scorpio season, and how minerals and microbes play a role in transforming old matter physiologically, emotionally, and spiritually into new life. And just like the fallen leaves decomposing into rich soil, our bodies have minerals and microbes quietly doing the same internal composting. In Scorpio season, 4 minerals take center stage: sulfur, iron, manganese, and copper. These aren't arbitrary choices. They resonate with the natural rhythms of the body. The microbial shifts in your gut, the archetypal energy of Scorpio, the deep internal work of transformation. Sulfur helps break down and dissolve what's stagnant, composting the old layers of the body and emotions. Iron sparks circulation and vitality, giving us the energy to face the depths. Manganese stabilizes and integrates, supporting the structure of what's rebuilt. Copper, which becomes more mobile as adrenal demand increases in the darker days, catalyzes memory, emotional processing, and intuitive clarity, helping us metabolize past experiences without being overwhelmed. So you guys can think of this as like a roadmap for the alchemy happening inside you right now. And in this episode, I want to dive into each mineral a little bit more, how they work biologically and how they interact with your microbiome a little bit, and how they mirror the internal alchemy Scorpio season calls forth. So hopefully by the end, you'll see why this particular quartet is so perfectly attuned to this time of year and how your body just naturally metabolizes, transforms, and regenerates. So let's start with sulfur. I like to call this mineral the purifier and transformer. Sulfur is the alchemist's mineral. It's the element that helps break down what's stagnant and turn it into fertile ground. And in Scorpio season, sulfur mirrors the process of internal composting. The body's, quiet transformation of what's old, used up, or heavy into new life. And in nature, sulfur moves through a great cycle of decay and renewal. As leaves and roots, decompose in autumn, microbes in the soil transform organic sulfur compounds into sulfate, which is a form that plants can absorb. And those plants then concentrate sulfur into amino acids like cysteine and methionine and into the flavorful protective compounds that give the plants, the brassicas, the alliums, their bite. And when we eat these plants or the animals that ate them, that same sulfur becomes a part of our own chemistry. So it's the connective thread between soil, plant, and human regeneration. Now, inside of us, sulfur is woven into nearly every rebuilding and detox process. It's part of the amino acids cysteine and methionine, which form the foundation for proteins. It fuels glutathione, our body's master antioxidant, and protects cells and drives our detoxification. It powers sulfation, a liver pathway that neutralizes hormones, drugs, and toxins for excretion. It builds taurine, especially for bile production and nervous system calm. And it even cross-links collagen and connective tissues, giving structure and resilience. Sulfur is both the purifier, clearing waste, oxidative stress, and emotional residue, and the reconstructor, rebuilding tissue, restoring order, and grounding energy. And just as in the soil, microbes mediate sulfur's story inside us. The gut microbiome contains sulfur transforming species that can be both allies and agitators. And when balanced, they generate small amounts of hydrogen sulfide, which is a signaling molecule that supports gut integrity and circulation. But when the system is imbalanced or the liver is sluggish, these same processes can produce excess gas, bloating, or fatigue. That's why some people feel sensitive to sulfur foods or supplements. It just means their internal ecosystem needs a little more time, a little more support to adapt to the situation that's going on inside of them. Now, autumn naturally brings an abundance of sulfur-rich foods. I just picked up my CSA share yesterday, and it was loaded with cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, leeks. And it's as if the land, Ooh, mercy. It's as if the land itself knows that we're entering a phase of internal purification. And eating these foods when your body's able to do so comfortably aligns you with the season's metabolic rhythm. They support the body's composting work, just as the microbes in the forest floor recycle fallen leaves into rich soil. Now, you don't have to force anything here, right? When we learn about sulfur and we know it's good for us, you don't have to shove it down your throat. Simply, right now is just an opportunity to kind of notice what are you craving? What are you resisting right now in general, but also in, food, maybe some of the sulfur rich foods, for example. And then, you know, you could just notice how your digestion and mood respond when you eat a lot of sulfur foods. Everyone's going to have a different response, but I don't think a lot of people recognize how they add up and how they can affect the digestion and even the mood and even your tension in your body, your connective tissue. You could feel a lot of tension if you're getting too much and you're not able to process it effectively. So just notice, and even just notice where in your life or your body you might be ready to let go, metabolize, or compost the old. Perhaps it's an old pattern, an old running pattern that you have, a physiological one that's connected to something deeper in your nervous system. Sulfur reminds us that decay is never the end. It's the alchemy that makes regeneration possible. Okay, let's talk about iron, the fire within. So if sulfur is the purifier and dissolver, iron is the flame that refines and forges what remains. It's the mineral of combustion, vitality, and courage, the bridge between oxygen and life itself. Iron is woven throughout everything that breathes. It gives soil, blood, and even the planet's core their red hue. In the soil, it cycles between two states, ferric and ferrous, depending on oxygen levels. In the cool, damp soils of late autumn, microbes reduce ferric to ferrous iron, making it available to plants. And this mirrors our own descent during Scorpio season, the alchemical process of softening what's rigid so that nourishment can flow again. When the soil dries out or becomes over-aerated, iron oxidizes and locks up. It's unavailable. And the same happens in our bodies when we live in constant overdrive. Too much oxidative stress traps iron in storage, leaving us depleted and inflamed at the same time, which is kind of like a state of functional anemia. Iron thrives like we do in the balance between oxygen and stillness, between life's fire and the quiet of decay. Biologically, iron sits at the heart of our energy system. It's the carrier of oxygen and the spark for cellular respiration, the reason we feel warm, awake, and alive. Okay, so let's talk about hemoglobin and myoglobulin. Iron binds oxygen in our red blood cells and releases it to our tissues, while myoglobin stores it in our muscles. And this determines our stamina, our warmth, and our capacity to breathe through intensity. Mitochondrial enzymes, or cytochromes. Iron forms part of the electron transport chain, the literal fire of ATP production. It's the biochemical hearth that sustains life. Neurotransmitter synthesis. Iron-dependent enzymes help make dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. And this gives us our motivation, our focus, and our calm. So a lot of times, low iron often shows up as fatigue, brain fog, and anxiety. Okay, thyroid conversion. So the conversion of T4 to T3 requires iron-dependent enzymes. Deficiency can mimic hypothyroid symptoms even with normal labs. And then immune regulation. So during infection, the body hides iron away in ferritin. It's a protective strategy that starves pathogens. But chronic inflammation can keep iron trapped. And this is what can create that fatigue and low oxygenation despite adequate stores. So iron is both the spark, the yang, and the container, the yin. It fuels our life force, but it must be held within structure. Otherwise, the fire turns destructive, oxidizing our tissues and then exhausting our reserves. So in the gut, iron becomes the center of a constant negotiation between the host and the microbe, which is like a battle for the spark. Pathogens crave iron because it fuels their replication. And our immune system counters this by sequestering the iron whenever inflammation arises and cutting off their supply. Meanwhile, beneficial microbes often thrive under low iron conditions, helping to restore balance. So, too much unbound iron in the gut behaves like rust, creating oxidative stress, feeding opportunistic species, and damaging the intestinal lining. And this is why iron supplements can constipate or worsen symptoms. They irritate the ecosystem rather than restore it. Now, a healthy microbiome helps modulate this delicate balance, influencing how much iron we absorb, store, or release. So, iron metabolism is really a dialogue between us and our microbes about who holds the flame and when it's time to tend or dim it. Now, as light wanes and temperatures drop, our physiology naturally slows. Yes, y'all. If you're feeling a little more tired and a little more slow right now, there's nothing wrong with you. It's normal. Less sunlight means less vitamin D and altered red blood cell production. Circulation becomes a little heavier and more inward. And at the same time, for many of us, I don't know about everyone, but if you're eating in alignment with the seasons and real food and nature, your diet's going to shift, right? You're going to want to eat heavier foods, right? Stews, meats, roots, a lot of times really rich in iron, right? And more grounding nourishment. So iron is like the flame that we carry within. It's the mineral that lets us breathe life into our work and move through darkness without losing warmth. In the soil, iron awakens when oxygen retreats. In our bodies, it awakens when we descend inward, when we rest, digest, and regenerate. So Scorpio season reminds us to tend this inner fire, to keep it steady, not smothered, not raging. And we nourish it through grounding foods, warmth, conscious rest, right? Even the trees show us this, right? Like as the chlorophyll breaks down in the leaves, the green fades and the iron reveals itself, the reds and the browns of autumn. It's just iron unmasked. Okay, let's talk about manganese. Manganese, I'm going to call it the silent stabilizer. Okay, so if sulfur breaks things down and iron transforms them through fire, manganese is the quiet mineral that rebuilds, the stabilizer that gives new life its form. It's the bridge between breakdown and rebirth. And in the soil, manganese is a trace but mighty mineral. It supports microbial communication and the enzymatic reactions that turn decay into humus. I never know which one it is, right? It's not the hummus you eat, the dip. It's soil humus. It's that like dark, rich, stable layer that's formed at the end of decomposition. And when microbes decompose fallen leaves, manganese acts as a kind of moderator. It's like preventing the process from tipping into putrefaction. And it supports oxidative and reductive enzymes that keep decomposition balanced and alive, guiding transformation towards renewal rather than rot. And manganese is also deeply connected to oxygen dynamics in plants, especially in photosynthesis and root metabolism. So, as the soil cools and oxygen levels shift in late autumn, manganese ensures that what's decayed becomes stable and fertile again. It's the mineral that holds the line between death and renewal, anchoring transformation into structure. So, in our bodies, manganese performs a nearly identical role. It's woven into the enzymes that rebuild cartilage, ligaments, and connective tissues, the structures that give form and flexibility to our physical being. So, for connective tissue integrity, manganese activates enzymes needed for collagen and glycosaminoglycan synthesis. Ooh, that's a hard word to say. This is key for joint resilience, spine health, skeletal stability, and then mitochondrial defense. Inside the mitochondria, manganese forms what's called manganese superoxide dismutase. It's one of the body's strongest antioxidants. And it neutralizes reactive oxygen species at the source of energy production, protecting the inner fire from burning out. Now, for neurotransmitter balance, manganese regulates dopamine and glutamate pathways. This is the fine tuning that keeps our mood and our focus steady. And too little can show up as irritability, restlessness, or trouble concentrating. All signs that our inner scaffolding needs shoring up. So manganese then is like the mineral of coherence after a breakdown. It restores structure to what transformation dissolved. And just as in the soil, manganese guides our internal compost into that stable humus. It really helps integrate the biochemical and emotional byproducts of change, the kind of like the ashes of what's been burned away by sulfur and iron. So, Scorpio season's lesson, it's not just death and transformation, but integration, right? Holding the new pattern in form. And manganese supports that anchoring. It really allows the body and the psyche to settle into a new equilibrium after the storm. So, as we move deeper into the cold, dark months, manganese energy becomes more vital. It's the mineral of stillness and structure. It's the unseen framework holding us steady as new growth germinates beneath the surface. So, manganese reminds us that regeneration is not just the spark of rebirth, it's really the quiet work of stabilization. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about copper, the catalyst and conductor. So, copper is a mineral of flow, rhythm, and conductivity. It carries the spark between elements from the iron's fire to the nervous system's electric pulse. So, if iron is the flame, copper is the dancing current of that fire. It keeps energy moving, motion metabolizing, and creativity alive. In the soil, copper governs decomposition's electrical and microbial intelligence. It's required in trace amounts for enzymes that help microbes break down lignin and tough woody material in plants. And without copper, decay really slows and the soil loses its conductive vitality. When copper is balanced, decomposition becomes regeneration, right? Nutrients flow, mycelial networks communicate, and the soil just like hums with subtle life force. So too little copper in soil leads to stagnation and fungal imbalance, and too much, and it becomes toxic and it's burning microbial life. So the key is rhythm, movement without excess charge. And this mirrors our inner world perfectly because in the body, copper is our inner conductor. It governs the electric, emotional, and hormonal symphony that keeps us alive and expressive. So for energy and iron regulation, copper activates iron transport via ceruloplasmin, right? So it ensures that iron moves into and out of storage properly. Without copper, iron gets trapped in the tissues and we burn out. The fire no longer flows. And for adrenal rhythm, copper fuels adrenal enzymes that regulate cortisol and stress response. When our copper metabolism is off, we swing between wired and exhausted, between fire and ashes. Neurotransmission and emotion. Okay, so copper catalyzes dopamine, norepinephrine conversion, meaning it directly influences our ability to mobilize emotion into action. Whew. So when it's in balance, copper gives emotional depth and intuition. When it's in excess or deficiency, it can cause anxiety, mood swings, or overstimulation. And for collagen and pigmentation, copper also lends structure and color. It's in melanin, elastin, and connective tissue. It gives life, warmth, and tone, literally and metaphorically. So copper bridges the physical and the emotional. It's the mineral that translates feeling into movement, inspiration into manifestation. So as we start to cross the Scorpio to Sagittarius threshold, we've got one more week here. Copper's theme really comes alive, right? We've got Scorpio's descent, the purge, the transformation. It demands that release and stillness. And then Sagittarius ignites the upward arc, the flame rising again toward light, vision, and renewal, right? And copper conducts that transition. So Sagittarius, we're finishing the descent and we're heading to the solstice and the light again, right? Okay, so right now, though, in late autumn, the sunlight has been lessening, right? The circadian rhythms shift, our adrenals recalibrate. Copper metabolism mirrors this. Our need for rhythm and rest increases as our system adjusts to lower light input. Melatonin should be up, and then the cortisol rhythm shifts. So if iron is the steady inner flame and manganese the stabilizing structure, copper is the conductor that makes sure that fire moves smoothly through the system, not stagnant, not explosive. This is also an emotional alchemy that copper basically teaches us how to metabolize feeling into wisdom, to move energy through without suppression or overwhelm. Copper is intuition, artistry, sensuality, the pulse that reconnects us to beauty after descent. It's really the spark that reminds us life is still dancing, even in the dark. Okay, now I want to bring one up that I did not mention, and it's Calcarea Sulphate. It's the tissue salt of Scorpio. So it's the tissue how do I want to say this? Restructurer. So as we are in that final phase of Scorpio season, the last week, the theme shifts from transformation to reconstruction. After the burning away, the purging, the metabolizing, something must come in to stabilize what's been cleared to, I guess you could say, seal the wound, so to speak, and prepare the soil for what's next. So that's where the calcarea sulphate comes in. And this tissue salt is a union of calcium and sulfur. It's the body's like janitor and builder, right? It cleans out the debris of cellular decay while laying down the scaffolding for new healthy tissue. You could say it represents Scorpio's final act, the regeneration after the purge. A lot more to say about the tissue salts in the future, but I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was so cool how nature just makes so much sense when you correlate it all from the cosmos to the earth. And so the takeaway really is just like compost, rebuild, and carry the fire forward, really. And Scorpio season is really just this deep transformative work, right? We have this descent and we see it in nature into the darkness, right? We have this deeper inner digestive process going, the composting, right? And it's where we meet what's been stagnant or unprocessed and really just like learn to recycle it into vitality, right? So again, sulfur teaches us to purify. Iron teaches us to hold the fire steady as we move through the dark. Manganese helps us stabilize what's been transformed. Copper conducts that energy, the emotional and energetic current that reconnects us to the light. A calcarea sulphate seals the work, helping the body integrate and rebuild new structure from the ashes of the old. So when you look at it that way, we always think about Scorpio as like death, right? But it's really death and transformation. It's less about endings and more about alchemy, right? The process of turning your lived experience into energy you can carry forward. The soil is doing it, the microbes are doing it, and your body is doing it too. So you can let your nourishment match the season, right? Eat sulfur-rich, earthy foods, cabbage, leeks, alliums, meats, right? Get those slow-cooked stews in. Whatever's available in the season. Even the roots have a role. I just got the most amazing CSA share yesterday. It was like all the sulfur cruciferous and then all the roots. It was so beautiful. And it's perfect. Those are the perfect things for soups and stews, right? And rest more. Rest deeply and trust the quieter rhythms. Such a good time to rest before the holidays anyway, to just recalibrate to the light and, let your body tell you if it needs rest. It's okay. And just support your inner composting with minerals that stabilize and rebuild, right? All the core ones. Right now I've been doing pretty consistent magnesium foot baths every day. It's been really fun. And I keep my little salt bowl nearby. And, if the Calcarea Sulphurica resonates with you and that feels aligned and like something you feel you can implement, maybe that's something for you. But really, essentially just notice where your system is still trying to complete a process. Maybe it's old emotions, maybe it's inflammation, maybe it's fatigue, some kind of resistance you might feel. This is your body's Scorpio work asking to be witnessed and metabolized, right? And just remember that regeneration requires rest, right? Like this time of year, the soil has to go still to become fertile again. And, that's a great lesson for us, right? So really quick, a little bridge to Sagittarius, right? So as the light, we're going to move towards Sagittarius next week. And we're going to be getting closer to the solstice where we start to have the light return again. And that's when this composted energy becomes fuel. What you've broken down now becomes a foundation for your next cycle of growth and expression. And then manganese is that bridge mineral. It really holds that structure steady as the fire of Sagittarius ignites. So we'll talk more about that next week. But I want to invite you, if this resonates with you, if you're feeling the pull to work with your body seasonally and understand how the mineral world reflects your own emotional and energetic rhythms, really personalize it. This is exactly the kind of work we do inside my programs. I help you reconnect to nature's rhythms through mineral balance, microbiome restoration, and deep nourishment so you can restore your energy and live in sync with your body's natural cycles. You can find more on my website. The links are below. You can also join my newsletter for seasonal teachings and resources, and all the good stuff that I put out into the world. So if you really enjoyed this episode, stay tuned because the next one's going to open the doorway into Sagittarius season where we're going to explore expansion, fire, and the next phase of regeneration. So until then, stay wild, stay well.